Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome on a Wednesday evening. Hello, Little Twisted. We got Jason, Liana King just snuck in. So, as everybody's tuning in, Mike is at a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he is not going to be able to join us tonight. So,
and
Mike,
we have a message.
We missed you.
Yep, and we have a message out to Tom, so hopefully he'll be joining us. But
yeah. So, what are you doing up to, Barb? Welcome, everybody. How are you doing, Barb?
Oh, welcome. I'm doing good. How are you doing, Grizzly?
Oh, man, I am so far behind. Yes, I will get your show info done tonight after the show.
I know. We talked about it. Thank you.
Right? Absolutely. So, what's on the radar tonight? What are we going to talk about?
Well, I have some questions because I watched your show and all the information about your the Salt Fork trip. Wow, what
my God.
Whoa,
so,
crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, even though I was grabbing for a pew, I don't know if I would have really fired off rounds. I was just trying to be funny because I was scared.
Yeah.
You know, when I said a hand, right? When it pushed on the tent, it was not human. It was huge. It was like with 5 fingers huge. And I was like, whatever. And damn Thomas slept through the whole damn thing. That's what cracked me up. And I'm hollering at Curtis. Curtis, is that you? Curtis. Yeah.
I am surprised you were able to say anything. I think I would just be like laying there like, ugh.
Yeah, well, I knew I should have got my lantern out, but I had this lantern, a bunch of them that you pull up, and the more you pull up, the brighter it gets, right?
Oh yeah,
and it's a Coleman lantern. So, and I had it next to my face when I was on the phone talking. So, and I had all the windows open in the tent. You saw the tent, right? How big the windows were. So I couldn't see anything.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought it was Thomas because the tent was shaking. And I was like, Thomas, are you kicking us out of that tent? Thomas, hey. Because I was laying on my queen air mattress. He had a single air mattress.
Yeah.
And it wasn't him. But anyways. Crazy.
Wow. But I was interested in what you guys think about all the potential dogman prints that you got.
Oh, so let me see if I can pull those photographs up as we're talking.
Whoa.
So we were down at Hozak Cave, and it was me, Melinda, Renee, Tim, Josh, and we were down there. And what happened is when, and a lot of people know when I go out on these excursions or meetings and meet and greets, I have all this equipment. So at camp, I'll set it all up and do like 5-6 different camcorders, videos. And I walk around with my camera and just take a plethora of pictures because you never have enough. So I passed out everything to people. I'm like, hey, use this. If you find some, start taking photographs. And because I want them to be a part of everything. And I think it really embraces people, especially the new ones in the field. And Melinda had my Canon camera. And I'm like, where did she go? And because I didn't know her, but
well, yeah,
it was my equipment, but I mean, I trust her. If you're watching, love you, Melinda. Anyway, And, so everybody disappeared, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go up to Hozak's cave where that little girl died, unfortunately, and this is where we got ran out the night before. And what was weird is that everybody was gone, and I'm like, where is everybody? So then we walked back down to the water. And that's when everybody was starting to take photographs. And this is Melinda, ladies and gentlemen, holding what she found. I stepped right over it. And it was weird. I don't know if you see my hand. It was bigger than my hand.
Wow.
And as I was standing in the mud along the bank, I was like, they're like, what's wrong with you, Grizzly? He's not, my medical, whatever. And they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like, look at my feet. And they're like, what? I'm like, I'm not sinking. And I was like, look how deep that track is. And I was like, you know how much weight that had to be? And now we got pictures of other canine prints, dog prints, right? Actual dogs.
Yeah. And people could have dogs there, certainly, obviously.
This was totally different than any canine print down there. And Renee was like, I got plaster. And then she caught juvenile prints of Sasquatch walking along. And what was weird is that I'm trying to find them, but what was weird is that this was a high traffic area, right? So when we were looking at the juvenile prints, we'll say alleged,
Yeah.
we noticed that they were not human. And when I say not human, they were wider in the toe impressions and the depth of them. I was like, and Josh was like, you know, pushing his weight down. He had because he had to go out to the water to get the water to mix for the plaster.
Okay.
And Josh is like, look, and he's jumping up and down in the mud and he's not sinking. And I'm like,
whoa.
I was like, everybody's like, what does that mean? I'm like, what does that mean? Look how big I am. Look how big Josh is. Josh, I'm not saying you're big. I'm just saying you're tall. And I'm like, and he was jumping up and down on the bank, and he's like, he was not sinking. Ladies and gentlemen, it has not rained. And I think almost over a week up there.
Wow.
So if you take, and that's why I wish Tom was here. Hopefully he'll jump in.
Yeah.
But when they casted that one canine print, it was next to a piece of log. And I walked right over it. And Melinda was like, what's this? And I looked and I was like, don't move. And everybody's like, what? And I'm like, don't watch where you're stepping. And I said, I actually missed this. And she's like, well, what's so unique about this? And I'm like, girl, all right, first off, you've seen dogs, right? We all had dogs. I mean, think about their paws. Does that look like a normal dog print to you? And she's like, no. And I said, now look how deep it is and where the toenails went into the mud. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, most canines or dog, the toenails are trimmed. And these were like excessive, like they were not worn, they have not been cut. And I was like, now everybody, and they're already looking for other, and they're like, well, look at this, look at that. And they're like, no, that's human, that's human, you know. But then Renee was showing these prints, and I'm like, this is in a high traffic area. And this is where the truck allegedly got trucked with those prints, where Tim and Gwen was sitting in the back of the pickup truck. Tim saw the Bigfoot walk up to the truck, and he didn't say nothing to anybody. So he got his pew out and racked it. And Gwen was like, what are you doing? And she's with Got Knockers, Bigfoot person. And she's like, what are you doing, Tim? He's like, nothing. He's like, just we're good. And so he didn't tell anybody until later. He said it, he heard it walk up, and he caught it out of the corner of his eye, standing right there, like not even 6-7 feet from him. Yeah. And I would have screamed. I would have screamed. Right. And well,
you don't know. You think you, but you know,
I would have screamed. Oh, hell yeah. Because when I was in that tent and I screamed for Thomas to get his booty up, they said I sound like a female, and everybody ran to the other end of the camp to Trina's tent with flashlights. You know, like, what's wrong, Trina? We're coming. And Trina's like, what the hell? Nothing wrong with me. I'm not screaming. You're like, you're not? And so the next morning, everybody's like, you sound like a woman. And I was like, well, I heard that last time. I'm like, oh, okay, so I sound like a woman. But so, you know, and I showed Little Twisted, and that's a good point. And thanks for reminding me. When we got back to camp, I got out Mastiff, Great Danes, and there's another big dog, very big dog. And I was showing them their paws. And they're like, And if you've seen how Melinda was holding that, the length of it. The length.
Right.
Not only the width, but also the depth.
Yes.
And it was just like, and I went there during the springtime last year, and to debunk all this activity, because they're like, Grizzly, go up there and check them out. And I'm like, really, man? I said, these are good folks. I'm like, they're like, Grizzly. I'm like, all right. And then I get an invitation. I'm like, oh, hell no, I'm coming now. And it's just, it's crazy. And then you heard about the ones where I can't help from laughing, to where the people got screamed at night. Did you watch that video?
Yeah.
So poor Neil, if you're watching this, Neil, I love you, but he pushed his wife into the tent, and he was so scared he tried to shut the tent, and he reversed it and got the zipper stuck.
Oh no!
And that,
As if like that's not. I mean,
Yeah, and
Not
yeah,
really going to do anything if it wants to get in at you.
yeah,
Yeah.
because everybody was
Yeah.
making fun of me like Grizzly. You know, you're not in a camper. You're in a tent with your windows
Yeah.
down. And I was like, you know what? That is my security. And
Yeah.
that's what,
Oh wait.
yeah, I know that it's just fabric, whatever.
Yeah.
But
But still.
yeah, so here's the video of Melinda trying to explain to you what's going on. Now, hopefully, I did get permission to post all this, but
Hi, Roger. Welcome. Roger
yeah,
saying he's late.
Roger.
His mom knocked out the
All right,
fly
here we
bulb
go.
off
And
the
action.
pot.
And action.
Okay.
See, she's got my camera taking pictures.
Yeah.
I'm here at Stockport Park, State Park. I can't tell you the name of the
Hozak Cave.
Yes. I found a dog print.
What kind of dog print?
Dog man print.
So it doesn't look canine to me. I looked at it. It's very big. It's almost about the size of the palm of my hand. And what's interesting is the depth of it. Like you found
Hey there.
everything in it, right?
Yep.
So what made you come down to this part of Hozak's Cave? Now, as she
I
spins,
came up
or as I spin, now you see the ground there?
Yeah.
That's dry. So you can tell where people walk. Now, it was kind of moist in certain spots, but like I said, it has not rained. So go ahead and play it.
A lot of.
Now, that's to the right of, that's her mom and her stepdad.
Okay.
And right in front of them is where she found the print where I actually stepped over. I scavenged this whole end of this bank all the way around the corner till it cuts off into the woods. So
good eye.
Renee.
Yeah, it was just, it was off the chart. I just couldn't believe it.
Years. I never believed her though. Who am I looking for? Bigfoot.
And y'all was just looking around in the mud?
Yep. Just looking.
Smart.
And what other prints did y'all come across?
Renee came across a juvenile print and a couple more dog prints.
Interesting. So yeah, and it was interesting because they went right down to the bank before we went up to Hozak Caves. And I was like, wow, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
You know, I've never been down there. And they went right there. And what was weird is that there was a circle of rocks. I don't know if you've seen that. Somebody has placed, and it looks like it is ceremonial, right? And it's a bundle, and there's no rocks around. So where did this come from? And Renee was like, a few months ago, everything was in a spiral. And I'm like, oh. Now, what do we heard on all of our shows? Bigfoot will get crystals and rocks, and they will put them in a spiral to where allegedly it's an energy gathering and where they will have a meeting place.
Right.
So I stepped inside this circle, and I got nauseous. And I was like, whoa. Really? They're like, crazy, get out of that circle. What are you doing? You don't know what that is. Wow. And I was like, come over here and put your hands over the rocks and feel, and tell me if you feel a difference. And I'm not going to say which one, but one of them freaked out. They felt a warming sensation in a butt.
Wow.
And they were like, and it scared them because they never felt that before. And I was like, try to step inside it. Like, oh, hell no, I ain't stepping inside that circle.
Wow.
But Tom, have you ever heard that with Bigfoot and rocks, how they would place them or crystals?
Oh, absolutely. I can show you some absolutely gorgeous.
See what I'm saying?
Cliffs made with rocks and circles and just beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
But it was weird because, like I said, you know, when I looked at that circle formation, there was a bunch of rocks around and a big rock in the center.
Wow.
And Renee was like, it's weird because it changed. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it was a spiral. Everything was in a spiral. Now it's a circle with a big rock in the center of it.
Wow.
And she's like, I don't know why somebody would do that. And I'm like, well, we can't prove it, but it's interesting. And I told a couple of them about our guests and other people in the field seeing this.
Yeah.
And then Kat from Australia, remember, she found out from their Yowies that they would place crystals on the side of hills and mountains. So I'm just saying, hey, Chio Real, welcome to the show. But I mean, it was just incredible. It really was. I just, you know, and people are like that live down there will tell you, well, that's normal. It's not for me.
Yeah. Are there reports of Dogman there?
So I did get permission to play this.
Okay.
Have you heard it? So in April when I was down there, a guy came down and he was like, "I watch your shows. I want you to see what this is and
Okay.
what comes to your mind." I'm like, "Okay," and he handed me his phone, and it's an older guy, and he recorded off his phone. And what happened was, I think 11 miles from Salt Fork, the neighbors in this neighborhood were being ransacked by a creature that scared the hell out of everybody, and it would howl in the valleys in it, and people didn't know what it was. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's like, yeah, I'll listen to it. So when he shared it to me, I was like, what? And I went to Old Bear, and I'm like, Old Bear, I haven't heard this in like 4 or 5 years, and I heard it in Tennessee in the mountains. I'm like, tell me what you think. So let me see if I can pull it up
Okay.
real quick. And we played it at this last meeting, and 2 other people were like, I've heard that before, and that is the real deal.
Okay.
And let me see if I can find it here. Let's see here. Where are you? I think it's, yeah, here we go. I'm trying to, hopefully, if I show his name, I know he probably won't care, but I'm trying to give him a little privacy here. Let's see here. Let me go to my phone and pull it. This way I can send it to, let's see here. But how you doing, Tom? What you been up to?
Oh, I want to let you know, don't pay the ransom. I escaped.
or like we said last week, Tom, your kidnappers threw you back because all you want to talk about is Bigfoot.
I got tired talking about Bigfoot.
Yeah. Shut up about Bigfoot, dude.
All right. I'm going to send this to our group. And if y'all could just keep it between us, I don't mind sharing it with you guys. This way I can play it from our group and not show his name. Because until I asked, because he was very worried about getting the location out, because he didn't want, or the neighbors did not want everybody to show up in their neighborhood, which I understand that, right? So,
right. Sure, absolutely.
I got the video up, and if you got audio, ladies and gentlemen, you may want to turn the volume up a little bit. It may help, but it is a pretty good recording. And action.
Oh.
Have you ever heard that before?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
have you, Tom?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what's interesting too? And this is exactly like what I heard. And Dan Dodson also, I've had him on the show a couple of times. He's a guy from New York, and he gets that a lot. And exactly, it's that, and then there's like a whistle at the end.
At the end, yeah.
And that's exactly what I not very often. I haven't heard it I haven't heard it for well over a year.
That actually shook me, because when I first heard it, there were other people in the hills with us. And one guy messed his pants, and the other guy left. And he was like, the hell with you guys. And the guy that lost his bowels had an actual encounter when he was hunting. And he thought that it was a demon. He thought it was a demon, because he's like, this does not exist in reality.
Sounds demonic,
and he, demonic. And he didn't, well, he wasn't a Bigfoot believer either. So somebody asked me, what happens when Dogman and Bigfoot cross paths? We get mixed information though, don't we, Barb?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but what was weird though is I made this comment, and I got to find the pictures, but it seemed like that the Dogman tracks, alleged Dogman tracks, or the juvenile tracks, is either one was following the other. And that was weird. It's like it was being tracked. So because you see the prints, I guess, go down to the water to, I guess, get a drink. I don't know.
Which would make sense. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then because how the spread was from the juvenile print, that I couldn't even walk it. I was way too short. I was probably 3.5, 4 foot short.
Wow.
So that tells me that that was probably in a fast pace,
Mhm.
not running, because if it was running, you probably would see slippage on the
Mhm.
bank, right?
Yeah.
Just like we do
Yeah.
as humans, we slip
I
and
would think.
slide, or
Mhm.
when we put our
Yeah.
foot down and we go to push off, it tells you what direction, right?
Mhm.
And that's just, some investigative
Yeah.
information if you're looking at tracks, right, Tom? About
Yes.
how somebody or something walks or is running,
Mhm.
especially on the gate. But what I wanted to do, and I didn't have my vehicle down there. I hate to say this, but I got police caution tape still. I wanted to block it off and keep
Yeah.
everybody out of the area,
Well, it
as
makes
because people were
sense.
like, "What are y'all doing?" And they're looking
Yeah.
at it, and here they are pouring castor on the side of the
Yeah.
the bank,
You
and
okay, Tom? Tom, you okay?
so, but
Yeah.
nobody bothered the cast or anything. And Renee was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, it'll be fine. Nobody will touch it." And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Wow.
I would post somebody up here, be like, "Get out of here, get
Yeah.
away."
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Because
no, we came
everybody's
back after
stepping on the
the trip, and they were still there, not disturbed and everything. So it was pretty interesting.
So, yeah, so that just goes to show you, like, everybody's walking around, looking at everything. You
Yeah,
saw people standing there, and it's
yeah,
not making a dent, and but these are
no,
that's
and because when I was standing there, and I'm like, when Melinda was like, "What's that?" And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh." I'm like, "Yeah." And
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I realized when I was standing, it was kind of moist. And I'm like, "Oh man." And I kept looking down. She's like, "What are you looking at?" I said, "Look how deep that is."
Mhm.
And she's like, "What does that
Wow.
mean?" I'm like, "Girl, look at you, look at me." And look, and Josh come over, and he's hopping up
Mhm.
and down his waiter
Yeah.
boots.
Yeah.
And it was just then, when we went up to the cave that night, I'll never forget it, because if you ever watch war movies, you got your commando up front, and if something goes wrong, he goes,
Mhm.
"Huh!" He makes that sign, and I'm like, "Oh, hell no, we're all going to die now." And he just froze, and we were being circled, and Josh came in from the
Mm.
rear. He got stuff thrown at him,
Wow.
and old Bear was like, "Y'all need to back up." Hell, I was already halfway down the hill. So yeah,
Wow.
moist, yeah, but we got pushed out, and it
Wow.
was just crazy. And I'll tell you this: when we got there, the atmosphere was great. We're all laughing, goofing off. We
Mhm.
weren't being quiet; we were just being normal humans, right?
Mhm.
But when we got up that hill towards that cave, it seemed like everything changed. You
Mhm.
didn't hear
Yeah.
the crickets. You didn't
Mm.
hear the surrounding sounds, and that's when Old Bear and I think Neil and somebody else saw the eye shine. There
Uh-huh.
was white eye shine and red eye shine.
Mm.
Uh, somebody said they heard a growl, which I was already halfway down, because I was hurting pretty bad. And
Mhm.
the incline was the way it was, and the way it was going up and down the hill in the dark, it was hard to see. Welcome, Laser. So, but yeah, thanks, Pat. I'm
Hey,
glad to
welcome,
have you.
Pat. Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I really appreciate that. But it was, and Greg and I talked about it, and there's some other Bigfoot enthusiasts. They're like, "Damn, every
Mhm.
time you go, Grizzly, there's some action," and
Wow.
it's like, I cannot make this up. I mean, it really is. It's real. And
Yeah. And
in this
yeah,
camp, how
place.
we camp out, right?
Mhm.
It's like Tom says, it's entertainment for these people,
Mhm.
or
Right.
Bigfoot, or Sasquatch,
Right.
or
Yeah.
how
Sure.
grassland.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
last year, Curtis hung the chicken, and it was taken 8.5, 9 foot off the ground. Somebody's cooler got ransacked. People's cars got touched. People's tents got pushed. And it's
mhm.
like, and the guy was like, mad because his food off his grill was gone. And I'm sitting there going, all right, ladies and gentlemen, come on. You don't have to put the show on for Grizzly. And everybody's like, woo! And then
Yeah.
they're showing handprints and things. I'm like, damn.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the people
Yeah.
that live down there,
Mm.
they're like, yeah, it's common knowledge. And I'm like, no, it's not. And now they're state park. They sell Bigfoot paraphernalia, shirts, merchandise, and they're pushing it. And they even got it on their website. And it's
Wow.
like
Yeah.
unbelievable. So yeah.
Yeah, so I
Interesting.
wonder if all right, so you're saying that there is not a history of dogmen in Salt Fork. Is that what
No,
you're
I was wrong. I've been corrected. So last year, Renee and Tim and a group of people
Mhm.
went to a certain area. I don't know if it was Devil's Cove or Devil's whatever. and they saw 2 or 3 alleged dogmen, and it scared the heck out of them. And I think Renee got struck with infrasound probably because she got violently sick, and she was down for 2 or 3 days. And
Wow.
and she did not want to go back to there. And I don't know, somebody talked her into doing it. She's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then allegedly, I don't know if it was when I was there or the time before, one came into camp and was standing behind the porta pots. Well, not the porta pots, but they're wooden structures, and you got a spot for a man to go tinkle and a spot for a man to go the other one. And same thing with the women. I guess they had 2 in there. I don't know. I didn't look.
Yeah.
But they're separate, right?
Yeah.
The men and the women. And evidently one came around, and they said that it marked the territory like a dog would do. And they said the awfulest smelling, urinous smell you could ever smell. And I think Tim and I think 4 other people witnessed this creature up there. And let me tell you something. This place, everybody was packing something, whether it was a rifle, a shotgun, or pew-pews. And I'm like, what the hell? I thought this was a state park. They're like, it is, but this is the hunting part of the state park, so you can carry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't care. I can carry in all 50 states, right? Because with my ID and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to qualify, but everybody was responsible, and it seemed like that these Bigfoot did not care if people had pew-pews. And this goes back to Tom and yours and Ron's and everybody else. Moorheads, they know your intention.
Yes.
They know if you're a good person or not.
Yeah, what your intent is.
Yes. And evidently, it's just unbelievable. I still cannot gather it. So, hey, Prospect.
Well, yeah, because remember, and Tom, with the situation with Arla and Rick, right? When the Bigfoot mind spoke and said, why do you have your gun or something? What Tom?
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so, wait, is Tom muted?
Is he muted?
Tom? Oh, okay. Yeah. So is that what it was, Tom? Right. It said, yeah.
Why are you carrying a gun?
Yes. Yeah. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is. And so.
But now, so the recording that the guy got and that you played, do you both think that is Bigfoot or Sasquatch?
No, I do not. And the reason why I do not is when I heard that, and this is 2024, so it was right before I got hurt. And I was down there in a spot not too far from LVL, probably about 60 or 70 miles, and it was in the mountains. And we were doing something with a group of people, and this guy kept saying, something's not right. And I was like, stop it. I'm like, you're just getting paranoid, And the further we got back, he was like, I'm telling you, something's not right. And the same sound was on the other side of the ridge, and it echoed, and I felt it. And the other guy instantly lost his bowels, and the other guy was like, I know what that is, I'm gone. And the other guy was like, I don't know what that is, and I'm not sticking around, and he was gone. And I just stood there, and I'm like, okay, number one, I know what happens if a bear's around or a predator and you run, just like a dog. If you run, the dog's going to chase you.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out where it was coming from, because out in nature, in the hills, it echoes. So you can get a general idea where it's coming from, but not actually a pinpoint. And we were so far back, and I'm like, wow, I'm not running.
No. Yeah.
But it was just strange. And so this is the incident, ladies and gentlemen, to where they got the posse out that night, just like the Wild Wild West. If they had torches, they were going to lynch somebody.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, here we go. Action. So what happened last night?
There was a scream in the woods.
We got screamed at.
What do you mean you got screamed at?
We got screamed at right before we went to bed.
What screamed at you?
Bigfoot.
What it looked like?
We don't know.
Don't know.
It was in the woods. But it was the sound that he's got on his phone. It's a little bit off. I didn't want to go in the tent. He's like, get your ass in this tent. Pull me in, try to zip it. You got the zipper stuck backwards. Alright, gotta get laughing. But yeah, it happened. Josh even got scared the first time he heard it.
Yes.
Man, y'all got the posse out last night.
I mean, when I very first heard the one that was.
So that poor guy, he was so mad for the first hour when I got out of the tent. He's like, why is Grizzly laughing? Why is he laughing at us? And I'm like, man, if y'all would have saw yourself last night, because I was on the phone once again, my little lantern with my phone, you know, and I hear, go get old bear, go get old bear. And I'm like, what the hell's going on?
What's going
over there?
on? Yeah.
And I hear all this commotion, and I'm like, hey, what's going on over there? And I'm like, it's a woman. I was like, oh, somebody get hurt? I'm like, what's going on? And they're banging on his camper. Oh, bear, get up, get up.
Oh my God.
And all these flashlights were going around the camp, and they were screaming. And then I hear,
oh wow.
and I'm like, what? I mean, we getting ready to have a war?
Mhm.
And so evidently the Bigfoot walked up to the edge of the woods, and they saw a red eye shine. I'm like, what the hell's that? And it screamed, screamed at him, and it freaked everybody out.
Wow.
Well, Thomas was half naked. Thomas, if you're watching, I love you. Half naked. He's jumping up. He's like, Riz, what do I do? What do I do? And he's
Oh
throwing
my
on the air mattress, throwing his air mattress. And he brought his long gun, we'll call it that. And he's like, should I take this? I'm like, hell no, leave that for me. And they all went after this thing. And evidently, this is one of the ones down there that allegedly is aggressive. And they were trying to make sure that it knew that we were going to, or not me, but they were going to stand their ground and not to mess with anybody.
Gotcha.
So old bear went into the woods and hollered at it and told it whatever, stay away or whatnot.
Mhm.
And because like Tom and everybody says, you can communicate with these things,
Yeah.
and they actually understand.
Yeah. Well, sure.
So, and it was funny because it reminded me of an old Wild Wild West of a posse getting together to go after something. I'm all thinking they were messing with torches.
Yeah. And pitchforks. And
Yeah, pitchforks.
So
And I
somebody
couldn't
said a
get
minute ago,
Yeah.
get your pitchforks right here.
yeah.
couldn't get up from grabbing a camera to film all this because I was laughing that hard. As I was like, I was like, is this really happening? And I'm like, man, are we in a movie? You know, I'm like, where's Greg Ogles? Greg, come here, bring your camera, Greg. And to film this, it was just off the chart. And Tom, Barb, you all say this, and Greg will say this. We go out to experience this, and when it happens, we lose our minds and our thought process. That one behind my tent, I think it was Thursday or Friday night. We all were laying in bed. You hear everybody zipping up their tents. That's how quiet it is.
Yeah.
And we hear, I'm like, what the hell? And Curtis is like, I got that on recording, because Curtis had his recorder out on a tripod recording everything. And the recorder Curtis had, as far as he was for me, everything I said on conversation to a person was recorded. I'm like, damn, Curtis, you know a lot of intimate stuff about me now. His face turned red. He's like, I didn't mean to. I was like, I don't care. But he's got the recordings, and he's supposed to give it to us and to play on the show. And then that one that screamed, or no, the one that pushed on the tent and rubbed the bottom of the tent where Thomas was, when Thomas hollered at it, I think he hollered, are you a freak or a tent fetish? I'm like, shut up, Thomas. What the hell's wrong with you? You're going to make it
Don't
mad.
take off the Sasquatch.
Right. And then it took off running. And man, when it hit the wood line, it was like, and all these twigs and limbs were breaking. I'm like, what the hell? And it was just like off the chart. And once again, you cannot make this up. I've never been in a spot where it was something every day. I just never experienced that. So I don't know.
It lives up to its, it's legend and it's the lore.
Oh, it does.
So did your tent get peed on? People are asking.
No, thank God. I would have burnt it if it did.
It's prospecting way back, USA hunting America. And then people are like, okay, from the inside or the outside.
Yeah, no. So, but I'll tell you this: when we were out at Devil's Cove or Devil's, whatever it's called, I was photographing everybody in the night shoot, right? And people walking up and down and out of the woods and on this trail, because I was getting some pretty good night pictures with their goggles or their headlamps and
Oh
flashlights,
yeah. Yeah.
and everybody stopped. And I'm like, what's going on? And Bear and somebody said grizzly. And I'm like, what? They're like, breathe. And I'm like, am I not breathing? Do I look scared or something? And he's like, no, you need to breathe. I'm like, I am breathing. He's like, no, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and tell me what you smell.
Oh.
Did it. And I was like,
Mhm.
he's like, that is a grass man that we've been watching circling up. And we need to get back to the cars. We're too far out with this many people. And
Yeah.
and Neil were watching one come around, and I'm like, why is not anybody telling me this? One come around, and they were watching, I think 37 or 45 yards to our left over the bushes and trees, and they were seeing eye shine. And then one, I guess, crawled up to where they were at. And ladies and gentlemen, when you see somebody raise their shirt on one side where a pew pew's at, I was squatted down, kneeled down, squatted down on my feet. I couldn't jump up. I couldn't run because I thought, oh man, he's going to fire off shots and all hell's going to break loose. Because we're told by Indians and ancient or whatever tribes across America, Old Bear and other people, if you fire on these things, you're in a lot of trouble because there's not only one. There's that, and I'll be with you, the stuff that we carry, unless I carry what I usually carry, and it's not going to do anything to them.
No. Yeah.
But everybody is not out to hurt these creatures or beings, and I want to say that for the air. They had that stuff on them for other things and other humans that we may encounter out off the trails this far at night and this far off the beaten path. Now, that spot we were at, we were being circled by grass man, and when everybody's telling me to breathe, and I smelt that, I never smelled it. And it was just like Tom and you would say, it was like a wet dog, a musk, a skunk, and it was just like, whoa. I was like, yeah. And but then when we got back to camp, they're like, Grizzly, where we're at. And I'm like, no. They're like, this is a spot where a lot of hunters go missing. And I'm like, what? You're telling me that now? They're like, yeah, they never find their clothes, their firearms, nothing. Their vehicles are there when they go hunting, but they never come back. And I'm like, what the heck? And they're like, yeah, the search parties go out. And I'm like, what? Everybody's like, yeah, like, I live up here. And yeah, this is where a lot of people won't go hunting because they think the phenomenon up there is so far off, not to the positive side. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but there's so many questions why people go missing and not return. So, and we can go by mental health. We can go by people that don't want to be found and do what they want their life, but no trace, clothing or anything. That's very questionable. So yeah. Twilight Zone.
And I did see a map of again, what dogmen and missing people and dogmen. And so I just, I'm not saying it's not, but I just, I was interested that there was a correlation in, with the dogmen being there.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because we had a conversation with a group of investigators that are kind of well known for their hunting skills. And they are saying that a lot of people are coming across things now that they cannot believe that it's real. And that topic got brought up. And then they were looking at missing people and see a correlation. And we see this with parks. And other things around the United States. And I'm not saying, ladies and gentlemen, that these creatures are doing this to everybody. I'm just saying it does happen. We do have one guy, I won't mention his name, that gets federal reports, state and local, and also the feds about people going missing and contacts with these creatures. But you're not going to see it in your local newspaper.
No. Yeah. Of course
now there's somewhere in Georgia that went public that there's a mass sighting of dogmen that's shaken up a community because they thought it was a hoax. And off the record, somebody took a pot shot at one of these things because they thought it was a bear going to attack them. But when they said when they shot at it, it was like it just stopped and looked at them like, really? That doesn't do anything to me. And the guy lost his mind, and it's just like I don't know what to say about that. So
Greg Oakles is asking, did you see any orbs?
So, it's weird. I'm glad you brought that up, Greg, because I didn't. And that's strange because we were out in total darkness and Greg, with good lenses and decent cameras, when you take night pictures, I got a lot of good stars, that were so prominent in the pictures. It was awesome. But I didn't. Now at LBL, Land Between the Lakes, I did when I went out behind the tent to do a man thing. And I looked up the hill, I saw an orb, and it was the beautifulest orb I've ever seen in a long time. But down there, you see a lot of orbs, right? So that's my question, like Greg, why is it more prominent in one area, not the other, in correlation with these beings or creatures and so forth? We got that guy was in Minnesota that swears up and down. He was in his deer stand, and he heard the crunch, 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 and here comes an orb, and next thing you know, Bigfoot came right out of the orb.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he swears up and down that's what orbs are. They're Bigfoot.
Mhm.
And the guy's credible. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a
I mean, that's-
singer, he's a deckhand. I mean,
That's what they say. Many
Yeah.
people say that. It's certainly something that and let's see. Oh yeah. So Little Twisted is saying that military release dogmen, and I have heard that, or the powers that be,
well, and we'll say this. Now, we've had people on the show over the years and witnesses that I've talked to that said not only have they seen collars on Bigfoot, they also seen collars on Dogman.
Mhm.
So that tells me that they are being tracked. We also got eyewitness testimony that these SUVs would pull up and they will pull out this hand dish and emit a frequency either to get a response off the collar or to elicit a response for these creatures.
Mhm.
And their household pets would go bonkers. Once again, humans we're not in that hearing range of that frequency. So what does that tell you? And then we also get reports to where, and I said this on the show and it freaked everybody out. There are a group of people was out in the middle BFE, and a woman shows up in a suit asking questions. Oh, the hell with that. Somebody give me a chair and some duct tape and go get my 4 or 5 out of the car. We're going to get some answers out of this woman. And they're like, Grizzly, you can't talk like that. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, what y'all do? And they're like, we just packed up and left. I'm like, oh, hell no. Mm-mm. I mean, how's that? Then people are being followed by drones.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
So Little Twisted asking, isn't Red Eye Shine Dogman? I don't know. I don't know for sure. I haven't.
I've never seen Dogman, but I know Bigfoot can do it, and I know deers have red eyes too. You got to be careful, and they reflect. But Tom and Barb, what's your all's take on that question?
I have no idea.
I'm with you on that. I've never been around Dogman, but I do know that Sasquatch can exhibit red eye shine. I've seen that many, many times.
Well, there's Curtis and his chicken. We was just talking about you, Curtis. So,
and what was that? Let's see. I thought there was another question, but that maybe. Well, yeah. And Blazer saying, yeah, Ron Moorhead says that too. Yeah, that they change energy and poof and yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people will tell you they have eyewitness seen a Bigfoot come out of an orb and an orb go into a Bigfoot, interchangeable. And some people will be like, no, you're crazy. That does not happen. But, and when I first met Ron years ago, and when we actually had a very in-depth conversation, Ron would tell you, and he'll tell you today, and he said it tonight. I thought it was an undiscovered primate in America, and they were going to go out and they were going to find it and tell everybody, look what we found. And they had high-powered rifles because they were big hunters. I'm not saying we're going to go out and take one down. That's not his intention. But his buddy is the one that notified them of the activity up in the mountains in that area. And he was like, yeah, I'll go, whatever. And then he experiences it. And he's like, oh, hell no, what is this? And that's when they brought all the recording equipment and documented everything. But people are seeing something that is unexplainable appear and disappear. That guy in Canada, if you haven't watched his interview, I'll try to find it and pin it. Big hunter, and how he feeds his family, he has to hunt. Canadian Special Forces out of the military when he walked out in that field to cross it, that moose, that 1,300-pound moose ran by him. And he was like, it was making noises that he's never heard. And then that big 10, 12-foot Bigfoot chasing it and them battling, and that Bigfoot takes down the moose. He did not go in the woods for years.
Oh, that would be,
And
that would.
he said Bigfoot dragged that moose with one hand.
Wow.
And it looked like he lifted up the veil and pulled it under and let go, and they just disappeared. And then what did he do? He ran like hell to his truck, and he floored it out and never went back.
Yeah.
And how can you explain that? And he told everybody, I'm not on DOCs. I don't take anything. I wasn't drinking. I don't drink. He was like, but he said when that Bigfoot went to grab the side of that moose, he said, what happened? The hair came off and blood was, and he's like, it looked like it barely scratched it. And and this lasted probably, what do you say, well, less than 50 seconds. But for him, it was eternity. I could not. And when he said Bigfoot ran past him, they locked eyes. Like, I'm going to come back for you, or you didn't see that. I mean, how would you take that? That would scare the hell out of me.
Well,
he
yeah.
didn't know these creatures existed.
And that's the thing, you know, seeing something that, that you don't think existed. This is a good, my friend saw
look
Bigfoot
at that.
turned into a moose. And then I've heard of that when, you know, like it'll jump. What was they said it jumped out of a tree and they saw that it was a Bigfoot, but then it turned into like a raccoon. And the person was like, I swear on my wife, on my children's lives, that this is that was not a raccoon that jumped out of a tree.
Right.
And I don't.
So what's weird is that one footage I played on one of my trail cams, you would swear an elephant was walking up to the camera. That's how massive this was. And then it turned out to be a little deer. And I'm like, that and the sound does not interchange.
Yeah.
How's that possible? And then you go back to hearing accounts like this. I don't know, because I didn't see it. I wasn't there. But then you hear the sounds of deer on my other trail cams, and it doesn't sound nowhere near like it did. How do you explain it? So I don't know.
Yeah.
Tom, what do you think about skinwalkers? And Barb, what do you think about those?
That could be it.
There again, that's something I have no experience with whatsoever.
I don't want to have an experience with a skinwalker. I mean, it certainly could be. It just seems like it's a lot of it. And I also feel like if it's a skinwalker, it's going to be, you're going to have a lot more, I feel like, evidence of demonic activity. I don't know, or you're going to have a lot of violence, you know, around, you're going to see this thing versus this is typically their peaceful interactions.
Right.
Like, the thing with why would a I don't think a skinwalker could be like a Bigfoot and then a raccoon. I mean, they take the spirit or whatever of whatever the hide that they have put on
absolutely. And we hear that a lot, and we hear that hunter with that Bigfoot moose, he said when Bigfoot took that moose, it bent down and looked eye to eye to that moose. And I'm like, oh, that is like taking a soul or thanking them for their,
oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? For let me have you.
For their sacrifice,
Yeah, for the sacrifice, Wow. And because when he said that, I actually saw his memory, and it was like stills, like and I was like,
wow,
holy cow. I mean, and then I felt how scared he was, and it was just like, and he had problems talking about it, and that gives more validity to the story. But we also hear about that. Blazer says, what was it? I heard footsteps grunting and there's nothing there. We hear that all the time. It sounds like an elephant running toward me. I turn around and look and nothing's there. And it's like standing right in front of me. And then we have Bar Shoot, the predator effect, where she caught it on her iPod. Was it 2013, 2014?
2013,
Yeah, 2013. So, I mean, and everybody's like, well, what is it? Well, I mean, they got prints, tracks. I mean, what else can it be? And they got the tree breaks and everything where it allegedly ran, and she caught it, ladies and gentlemen, because she had her iPod duct taped to her walking stick.
Yeah.
And she was standing there, and what did she saw? A flash. What was that? And nobody else saw it. And then when they went back, put it on the big screen, they start slowing it down. They were like, oh. And that's when they went back and they found all the evidence. And yeah, I mean, come on. So
Harley Owens had. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Shortly after that happened, some guy came on. Well, if you have a such and such a camera with such and such a lens and this filter and that filter, and then you can achieve it. She films it with an iPod on a stick.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's not quite that level of technology, you know.
Right.
Well,
you know, that's the thing that's really frustrating. And I have to say, like, when I post things, you know, well, you need to get yourself a better camera. You need to get yourself a better recording device. Like, we're just people, you know, we're just people, average people that are having experiences. If I go out and get all kinds of, you know, then I don't know. I think that kind of like I lose credibility if I have all these professional. I'm just a mom. I'm just a grandma.
Right.
I have all these professional, you know, cameras and sound machines, whatever. You know, now if you're a person that has a lot of that stuff, like you, Grizzly, okay, everybody knows, you know. But like, yeah, why would you do that if you? And I feel like that's.
Yeah, I mean, everybody can't afford a 4,000 or 5,000 body camera or camera of a body without lenses, just because you know. And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm not going to say where this happened, but somebody was taking pictures with their not a high end phone. We'll say that because they couldn't afford it, which is fine. And they were like, "Look at this! Look at this!" And I said, "Watch this." And I got my camera out that Melinda had, and I pointed in the same direction. I took 13 pictures, right around. And I said, "Take 2 pictures." And we put them side by side, and they're like, "Oh." And I was like, "Well, this lens right here is you can probably get $1,500, just my lens." And I said, "But you know, your phone is not going to capture the details, the megabytes, the pixels that this camera and electronics are going to produce on."
That's my first answer to people who say, "How come we don't have clear in focus pictures?" Because you've got amateur people on amateur equipment trying to do things automatically that can hardly be done by a professional with professional equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, Tom, one of the cameras that I use on the police department for evidence and photography, Barb remembers this. I went out behind the house, took a bunch of pictures, came back. My camera didn't work. My SD card was zapped. And some of the pictures I did get were gone. And it was just, I thought I lost my camera. And I had that camera and it's like, it didn't make any sense. And then I go back out the next time, it works, everything's fine, and it doesn't happen. Now, we know that these creatures, whatever end of the spectrum you want to say, they do mess with electronics. That's evident. Cameras, pictures, cell phones, video cameras, whatever, it happens. So, yeah.
One thing that's been happening I think it's kind of cute. We're doing we're replacing the siding on the front of our house now currently. So we have the home security camera is in a different spot. And many times my husband, just so it doesn't run and you get a bunch of videos and movement of him doing stuff and my son-in-law doing stuff, he'll just take it in, he'll just put it on its face. So there's nothing there,
right.
It's not going to. So they have picked up on this because so many times at night, I'll be like, darn it, Randy left the darn camera face down because I told him, please don't do this because that's our front door. And I'm like, if anything happens, if anybody comes, this is what we have them for. So I'll go out and it's like, that camera is sitting up. And so, I mean, why else would it just be black? I think they know that my husband does this and they're like, yeah, and we know she's going to look at us. We're going to just play a little trick. I mean, I don't know why, because it's
look at the cameras that you had and they were throwing acorns and twigs at it.
They always.
And it's like,
and do that.
And then we had that guy in Kentucky that took a tape recorder. I have one just like his, and he duct taped it to the back of a street sign in the middle of a field around a curve. And these damn things would throw rocks at it all night, trying to knock it off. And you hear tank, and dong, and I mean, ladies and gentlemen, you can't make this up. And Barb shoot, they turn them off. And I got more reports down there at Salt Farm. I can tell you last show, Bigfoot and tiki torches.
Oh, yeah, because that
Putting
happened.
them out. Putting them out.
Huh.
She said she would be in her tent and she would watch them go out one at a time.
Wow.
Oh hell no! Hell to the no with that. And other people are like, oh yeah, they come up and we go inside the house. We don't put them out. They'll put them out.
Yeah.
And they're like, do they use the cap? They're like, no, I guess they use their fingers. So
Or they
I
could
don't
just
know.
blow on them. Maybe they just blow
Well, I
them
guess
out.
they could be.
Give
That
enough,
is
like,
big lungs. So yeah.
Lung power. Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I got
So, yeah.
I did get a recording when actually, and it was amazing when I was away in California, and I still listen in at night, and you got that wheezing, that like, oh, it's just amazing, the lung capacity, and you can hear it. And somebody had said about how when they sound, it's close to the camera. What did they say? But it sounds like it's far away, and that happens. Yeah,
Right.
sometimes
Right.
too. Yeah.
Well, they've got these huge echo chambers in their throats too.
See,
Then Ron brought that
Reverberate.
up tonight. That lady that passed out with that encounter, she said the same thing, how it swelled up around the neck.
Mhm.
And
that's
ladies
what
and gentlemen,
you
if
hear.
you've never heard a
Mhm.
Bigfoot grunt, growl, scream, it is very, very deep
Mhm.
and it is extremely loud and it could be far off. And that one behind the tent, I mean, it echoed the whole damn camp and around the camp through the valley where the marsh is and the mud and the mud.
Mhm.
And Kurz was like, I got that. He was in his tent sleeping, I thought.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not like
I have a photograph of a waveform that spans one note, spans 5 octaves.
yeah, a human can't do that.
No
No.
way.
No.
We
Mhm.
can span 5 octaves, but not one note. No,
Right.
no way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
little twisted says it will
Yeah.
rattle your soul, and Greg says, yeah, you can feel it. Absolutely, you can. And
Mhm.
people, the first time I was down there, they would do tree knocks, right before we go to bed.
Mhm.
And everybody's got their mixed feelings on that, and they do too down there. But they enjoy it, right? It's entertaining to them. And that first night, Shelby was like, "Oh hell no, Dad, I'm not sleeping in the tent with you." And she slept in the camper. Even everybody heard that tree knock. And it's always around 1:30 down there. I don't know what it is. And when that tree got hit, I was laying in that tent. I was like, that was not human. And
Mhm.
everybody, when we got up the next morning, we did a red robin, and we would say, all right, this is what happened before we went to bed. This is what we
Mhm.
heard. This is when everybody cut off and went and turned in. Everybody's like, no, that was not us. And we knew it was not human because when it hit that tree, it was so distinctively different than anybody down there doing tree knocks.
Mhm.
And I could not reproduce it because I'll be honest, I did try later.
I think they do it with their mouths. I think they do it with their mouth.
Wow.
What do you think?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Mhm.
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
it was
That's what I
just
Because
wow.
I get that sign that under on our lower deck, and I keep thinking they've got to be messing with wood we have down there, but nothing is
Mhm.
moved, and I really do. It's that, like you said,
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, and Blazer, is it a tree knock or is it the
Yeah,
sound they make?
I think
It's
it's
a
the
sound they
that
make. Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody's never seen a creature do a tree knock.
Yeah.
Nobody. I've never
Yeah.
met a person or interviewed a person. We always have it recorded on
Mhm.
audio, video, trail cam, cell phones
Yeah.
while they're out there, filming themselves and they accidentally record it.
Mhm.
So prospecting, I live in Anniston,
Mhm.
Alabama, and the other
Hmm.
night I heard an owl. He said he's got some good recording, and yeah, we'd love to have you on the show prospecting and go over it. But once you encounter these sounds, and like Barb and Tom is talking about, it sticks with you. You don't forget it. And then when you hear hoaxes, you're like, oh no, that's fake, right?
That's just not it.
Because I've heard all kinds of alleged dogman calls, and I'm like, oh no. Because we get a lot of recordings, and then we got Kenny, and I run always stuff by Kenny too, and Kenny's like, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. That was that. I just love having him as a. Okay. So Henry, I did have a recorder on all night, and it was supposed to go for 10 hours, but it only went for 5 hours. So something definitely
Once again,
shut it off.
being turned off. And
Yeah.
and that's why
Yeah.
I was trying to, and I think I got all my recorders. I can't see because my studio lights in the studio. But these recorders, you don't hit a button to turn off. You got to hold and press.
Yes.
Or hold down and
Yes,
press.
that's what you have to do.
In Barb shoot, she would hide them, and who else would hide them underneath the picnic table? And they would come
I
back
didn't-
and they would be gone. And then when they were done camping or the group was going to leave, they would be placed on the table. Like, here you go, it's back.
Mhm.
I mean, you can't make it up. So
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point I don't even take them anymore, because when I go out, I want a pleasant, calm
Yeah.
reaction with them. So I have a camera, but the camera is to take, just scenery pictures, and I'll even
Right.
ask permission before I even take a scenery picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to take
definitely.
a picture of over here. If you don't want to be in it, you better hide or let me know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's the way it is. I leave the electronics at home. I don't even take a recorder anymore.
Well, you'd be proud of me because I've got a lot of night vision equipment, right? And I've got a
Mhm.
lot of night vision lights for my cameras, and I didn't use none of it. That
Good.
was so hard. Even on my camera for filming, I didn't use any of that stuff. And I wanted to, and I didn't. I filmed in the dark, and I took pictures in the dark. And I mean, I capture what I did, but it's still fun. But I wanted to, encapsulate people that's
Mhm.
never been out in the woods and their experiences for the first time, because
Sure.
that's priceless.
Yeah.
And at first people were like, damn it, Grizzly, put down that camera and come eat. And then at the end of the weekend, they're like, man, you have been on your phone, the computer, the whole weekend, uploading pictures, doing videos. And I told them, yesterday is gone. You can never revisit it, but now you can.
Mhm.
And I just uploaded a bunch more pictures on Facebook. Now I
Yeah.
message everybody, go out and grab what you want, use what you want. And now they're like, oh my God, I'm so happy. I can't believe you caught me in this pose. And one girl
Mhm.
I told you didn't know what chiggers were, and she got ate alive.
Oh
And then when she
no.
saw what chiggers were, she freaked out.
Ew.
She's like, oh my God. I mean, all over her ankles. I ain't gonna mention your name, Gwen. I love you to death.
Oh no.
But we
It's
had
funny.
a picture for her, but yeah.
Blazer said Bigfoot's laugh and say, hey, I saw a human that had my picture on his shirt.
So let me tell you, Blazer.
Oh yeah, and then Little Twist said, I wonder if you left a Bigfoot shirt out, would he take it? Oh
No,
my gosh, I want to do that. But I
I've
don't
never
want to
had
send you
one
my
taken.
picture.
So
No.
it's
I could never
interesting
find one
because
their size.
Yeah.
I've got a
Because
question for you though, Grizz. You had one of my all-time best friends on your show for interview today. What did you think of? How did it go with Ron?
it went
Forehead.
great. His connection was awful, and I felt bad for him.
Uh-huh.
Ron was on Barb's show not too long ago, and I adore him to death. And
So
we
great.
talk
I'm
quite
so
often.
honored.
He's a great person.
Oh,
He
And
really is.
amazing.
I mean, and I had him on a show before Barb's, and a guy was eating Ron alive out in the comments. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to boot him. How dare you disrespect Ron? If you don't agree, I don't care. Just don't be
Yeah.
nasty.
Shut up. Yeah.
And Ron saw that, and he was like, let me address this person. And I thought, oh God, Ron, I'm so sorry. Within 8 or 9 minutes, Ron had that guy apologizing and saying, now I see why you think this way, and you proved to me that it's possible.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to give people a chance. Just because you don't understand or believe in what somebody believes in, it's okay. But
Mhm.
is it possible? And we talked about this before on Barb shows and other shows we had. Is it possible? And just because you have not seen it doesn't mean it does not exist or does not happen, because
That's
you're not going
right.
to have thousands of people across America falsify a same
Right.
story or across
Right.
the world.
Mhm.
Do we have
Yep.
hoaxers and fakes? Yes,
Sure we do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's never going to cease. With AI, even Ron talked about AI. With AI, it's terrible. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
But
I
look at
wanna-
it this way too. When you see something CGI, AI really good, just remember this. Even if it's a really good image, really good fake, that's what you'd see if you were seeing it anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, Bill Howard was on the show the other night, and he's trying to recreate plantations. And he
Mhm.
was like, I do not want to use AI. I'd rather pay a human being, especially on voiceovers. But he
Mhm.
said this, how can I compete when I
Yeah.
can pay a small fee and get it computerized? Because we're going to go and find a field of DLC to film in, right? And he's found a hemp field. He's trying to get permission because it looks real. It looks like the real. But how can you do that, right? And
Mm-hmm.
where everybody else is using CGI or AI to do in
Yeah.
the movie. So
Yeah. So we have a couple of interesting comments. Was it Greg that said? Did you see that about what? Where is it?
I heard a knocking that was extremely fast, too fast for rapping, and I was very much considered that they,
Yep.
we hear that, Greg,
think so.
and Barb, Tom, and other people will say the same things. And if you ever have a conversation with Ron about that echo chambers, like Tom's talking about, Ron didn't really believe in that at first until that woman that he went and interviewed literally passed out. That's how close she was to when it did it. And I've heard this over the years, and it's not very common to hear it. So, and usually you have to be very close to see it to notice it when it does it. So, yeah.
And then Georgianne says, can you go to her comment when she was a kid?
Let
me see.
Down the bottom.
When I was a kid, my grandparents lived on a farm back in the 80s. They had Bigfoot all around, and Grandma fed them. The noise they make if you do not leave them food would shake the house or the barn. Yeah.
How many people from the 60s, the 70s, I'm going to get my mic closer, 70s and 80s are coming forward now. I'm saying when I was a kid, it was knowledge that they lived around the farm, and we hear it. The grandparents or the mom and dads would feed them. And we're not going to name that one guy, but look how many big bags of dog food he goes through, fruits and vegetables. And remember, he built that little, I call it what do you call a podium, to where they go down and get food. And when they don't get fed, what do? They come in the house and they on the cars, and they go through the car. They're trying to unload the groceries. And he tells you, but they don't like this type of dog food. They like this, It's,
which is one thing. One thing I always warn people: do not do it to the extent that they get to expect it. Make it a treat. Make it a gift.
Yeah,
but not all the time.
Oh my God, Barb! How much food did he go through? Like 60 or 80 pounds a week, not counting everything else that they feed them.
Yeah, I mean, whoa.
And then the neighbors know that they're around, and they shoot at them. And so they got a safe haven on this guy's property. And remember, he was having problems with pigs. What does he do? He goes out in the woods. Hey guys, I'm feeding you. So do me a favor, get rid of these damn hogs, would you? And the hogs are gone. They don't have a hog problem.
I'm hoping I asked them for help with the moles. The big moles are like digging everything up, and so we'll see if it works. Hey, Chiro is in here. Jane from Chiro Sounds, and I don't know. I think she said that Garrel isn't in here tonight, but you guys have to check out their channel.
Yeah,
it is amazing. I myself saw this. So if you look up at night and you see the Big Dipper, and I hope hi Dirt Road Bigfoot. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, Jane, but there are lights that are coming out of the pot of the Big Dipper.
That's what I was saying when I was in Arizona.
Yeah.
You all thought people were messing me into like, Grizzly, you're crazy.
No.
I'm like, I'm telling you. No. Because that girl was like, that is a cloud, or no, that's a mountain. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm like, they would appear here and they would either go in or come out. And it's like, what the?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and they're like,
not,
going towards something. And they all, it goes and it stops. And my son-in-law and I were looking at it a couple weeks ago, and he said, I think that looks like a satellite. And then, but he looks, you can tell on your phone, no, it's not. Definitely not a satellite. I said, that's not a satellite. Because there's no clouds, and it goes to a certain point and it stops, and then another one.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's I don't know what's going on, but that good catch. So it's on Midwest Night Watchers. And
Blazer. That's exactly what I told that girl in Arizona. I'm like, it looks like a portal, and she kept saying, because she had mountains around her house, and she's like, no, it's a mountain. I'm like, girl, that is not. I said, a mountain's not that high. And I was like, I know. I'm telling you what. And we watched it for like 20. She's like. And then when she turned off her porch lights and we were going in, she's like, you need to come out here. I'm like, what do you mean you need to come out? She's like, look, there is no clouds and that's not a mountain. I was like, I told you. And then that one UFO that flew over that looked like it had the two rectangles, lights. And I've never seen, and I live by an airport, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
you know, and with the Air National Guard. I've never seen it. And I was like, what's that? And she's like, I have no idea. I'm like, wow. And what was crazy, all the camera equipment was sitting on the bar and on the kitchen table. Didn't grab nothing.
Well, you know.
Didn't grab anything. So there you go. Somebody, would you get pictures? When you see something that big flying over in the middle of a desert with these two humongous rectangle white lights that you've never seen, I was shocked and awe because I was like trying to process it. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, I've never seen that before. But anyway.
Yeah. Standing Stone is asking, go out and look. And I mean, Jane, I believe that it's doing it almost every night. Because she had said about a certain date, and Jane, if you're still here, there was a date that she had seen it 3 years in a row, but now it's continuing. That it only did that, but now it's continuing to do it. So, yeah, it's.
Blazer says it feels like a portal because there's displacement in the space around it. It looks like a heat wave. Yeah. You literally will see them either coming out or going in. Because I was like,
yes.
oh, look at that
every night.
Because
yeah,
it's just crazy,
and it's coming out. It's still coming out, kind of the pot of the Big Dipper. So we were blown away. Yeah, really, what's going on? You know? Yeah,
and like Barb says, download the satellite and download the plane app, and you can put in your coordinates or your address, and give the coordinates. They'll tell you everything flying over.
Yeah,
and once you get used to the airplanes and the military jets that fly over and the satellites. You know, I mean, look at Starlink. When that first came out, everybody thought it was UFOs. You know, so she says it starts about an hour. And what time is it?
Check it out.
Because I think that's about the time I was sitting out. Because you're all in California time, right? All of
you
all?
It's only 7:13 here, but they're in the Midwest. So they're, I think, on your time. I think they're in Central. So,
so it was, I think, between. Because it's I love the desert at night. It is so cool, right?
Beautiful.
But I think it was 11. That'd be 12, 1, 2. So that'd be 2 o'clock Eastern time. I think it was between 11 and 12 Eastern time. Well, whatever it is. That time zone screwed me up for weeks. So,
So wait, are you? Yeah. So she's saying that they are now under the handle, now heading to the pan. Wow. So they've even kind of changed directions a little bit. Wow. That's just amazing.
It is. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of went over a little bit, but it was a good conversation. What y'all think?
Good show.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
And Barb, what do you got going on tomorrow? Because I'm getting ready to do your link.
Yeah, thank you. Tomorrow I have Tara Stephanie. She's a fellow Pennsylvania. Well, I was born and raised there. I don't live there anymore. But anyway, I'm really excited to talk to her. She's a Bigfoot researcher and she's involved in a bunch of groups. And have you ever met her, Grizzly? Tara Stephanie? She goes out to all these things. Yeah, I don't think she was at the Salt Fork one, but yeah.
No, so I mean, you had Jackie on your show, right? And I was out there in Arizona. Remember the girl with Les and the blonde girl. Remember they got squeezed by Bigfoot and all that.
Yeah.
She was talking to me when I was out in Arizona. I'm like, yeah, you got to come on and do a show with us. And she's like, I did. And I'm like, when did you do a show? And she's like, are you serious? And I'm like, no, I don't. You haven't done a show with me for a while. And she's like, I was on Barb's show. And I'm like,
you were there.
My bad. I didn't mean to offend her. I'm like, we talked to so many people, and
I know it's terrible. That's why I'm like, wait a minute. You have to think it is.
And that's why I asked you, was it your show or is it somebody else's show? We had that person
but
or
she knew it was.
Yeah, she did not like that. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed the show tonight. And thank you all for tuning in. And from coast to coast around the world, Godspeed, everybody. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Good night, everybody. Good night, guys.
Good night.